안녕하세요. 미국 주식으로 온 대학이 미주은입니다. 평생 잊혀지지 않을, 그리고 전 세계 누구에게나 정말로 특별했던 2020년의 마지막 달 12월이 시작됐습니다. 12월은 왠지 크리스마스 그리고 연말이 있어서 그런지요, 나도 모르게 기분이 좋아지는 시기인 것 같은데요. 요즘은 바이러스 때문에 대부분의 사람들이 밖에서 보내는 시간보다는 집안에서 보내는 시간이 더 많아졌잖아요. 그런 의미에서 올해는 집안에 설치하는 크리스마스 추리 장식을 예전보다는 조금 더 화려하게 해보는 것은 어떨까 제안드려봅니다. 저는 아직 어린 아들과 딸이 있어서요, 올해 크리스마스 장식을 좀 더 스페셜하게 만들어 볼 생각입니다. 오늘 방송의 주인공은 팔란티어입니다. 팔란티어는 미주은 패밀리 여러분들도 이미 한번 공부하신 적이 있는 기업인데요. 팔란티어가 직성장하기 바로 전날인 9월 29일 방송에서 이 기업의 투자 가치에 대해서 공부한 적이 있습니다. 잘 아시는 것처럼 그 이후에 한 달 가까이 횡보하던 팔란티어의 주가는 최근 한 달 동안 폭등하는 모습을 보여줬는데요. 상장한 지 2달 만에 팔란티어의 주가는 185.37% 상승했습니다. 미주은 채널에서는요, 10년 후 10배 이상 투자금을 불려줄 종목들을 찾고 있기 때문에 아직까지는 팔란티어에 대한 관심을 접어버리기에는 너무 이른 것 같은데요. 너무 많이 뛰어 올라버린 주가 외에도 팔란티어의 투자를 망설이게 되는 이유가 한 가지가 더 있습니다. 도대체 어떤 비즈니스 모델을 가지고 있고 어떤 상품을 판매하는지, 그리고 도대체 이 회사가 뭐 하는 회사인지가 정확히 파악이 되어야 투자를 할 건지 말 건지 결정을 할 텐데요. 팔란티어는 이게 만만치가 않거든요. 그런데 때마침 팔란티어라는 기업의 이해를 도와줄 만한 짧은 영상을 찾아서요, 한글 자막과 함께 공유할까 합니다. 2020년 12월의 첫 번째 방송 제목은요, 팔란티어는 과연 어떤 기업일까? 단 11분 만에 보여드립니다로 정했습니다. 자, 그럼 007 주인공을 닮은 창업자와 예술가 분위기를 물씬 풍기는 CEO가 경영하는 기업 팔란티어 이야기 지금 바로 시작합니다.
Co-founded by Peter Thiel back in 2003, its mission, providing software that customers use to integrate volumes of data from images to spreadsheets into a central platform where it can then be securely analyzed and interpreted.
News of Palantir's plans to go public, as well as its recent announcement that it will be relocating its headquarters from Palo Alto to Denver, has put the secretive software company in the spotlight. Best known for its work with U.S. government agencies like the CIA, the Department of Defense, and most controversially, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, the company was founded following 9/11 with the goal of defending American interests.
The core mission of our company always was to make the West, especially America, the strongest in the world for the sake of global peace and prosperity.
But in recent years, Palantir has also courted customers like Airbus, Chrysler, and BP. Commercial customers now make up about 50% of the company's revenue, a number that's trended upwards over the past decade. And even though Palantir has never turned a profit, revenue has been growing as losses have narrowed.
Perfectly normal for a software company to show that sort of trajectory going into their IPO. The question is, does the economic model over time look like one that will eventually produce profits? And you can certainly get there.
But while longtime investors are eager for the company to go public, for others, confusion remains about what it is exactly that Palantir does, and why their work with law enforcement agencies has raised eyebrows. The name Palantir comes from The Lord of the Rings. In the fantasy series, Palantiri are spherical stones that help powerful users see what is going on in other parts of Middle-earth and communicate with each other. Founded in 2003 by billionaire Peter Thiel alongside current CEO Alex Karp, Joe Lonsdale, Stephen Cohen, and Nathan Gettings, Palantir's tech helps detect unusual or suspicious patterns in large datasets, using techniques that the founders learned working together at PayPal. The CIA was one of the company's earliest investors, and its only customer for a number of years. Eventually, other intelligence agencies like the FBI and the NSA jumped aboard, using the company's customized data analytics capabilities to track and capture terrorists, insurgents, and drug smugglers.
They cite Afghanistan and Iraq as two examples of places where soldiers were mapping networks of insurgents and makers of roadside bombs by hand. So they actually were bringing in technology to do things that intelligence agents on the ground were having to do manually in very dangerous places.
The company's software has been credited with helping to find and kill Osama bin Laden. And though this has never been confirmed, Palantir certainly has not disputed it. The techs also helped to uncover Bernie Madoff's Ponzi scheme and rooted out Chinese spyware installed on the Dalai Lama's computer.
We work hand in hand with most of the special operators in the Western world. We work hand in hand with most of the clandestine services. We're in over 40 countries.
Today, the company increasingly works with high-profile commercial customers too. Its first was JP Morgan Chase, which adopted the software in 2009 to monitor employees who might go rogue. However, the partnership ended in scandal when JP Morgan's special operations lead used it to spy on top executives. Others have continued to express interest, though. Fiat Chrysler now uses Palantir to identify potential faults in car parts. Airbus uses it to respond more quickly to manufacturing problems, accelerating the production of its A350 aircraft. And BP uses it to analyze drilling data, reportedly leading to a 10% increase in oil production in the North Sea.
This is a hefty piece of software that runs across an enterprise and is used for understanding everything that a company faces, whether it's their customers, their supply chains, downtime, geographies where there's growth, where their competitors are gaining share.
As revenue from the commercial sector has increased over the years, CEO Alex Karp has had to rethink his historical dismissal of salespeople.
We don't look like a classic enterprise software company. We have no salespeople. Almost everyone here is an engineer.
Not anymore. Karp's been building out a sales team, and in 2019, the company spent 61% of its revenue on sales and marketing. However, long-standing government contracts remain integral to the company's revenue as well as its reputation. And during the coronavirus crisis, Palantir has formed a number of new partnerships too, with the VA, the National Institutes of Health, and Britain's National Health Service, helping these agencies, as well as the CDC, to track the spread of the virus and allocate resources.
In order to make decisions right now, in order to know where the PPEs need to go, in order to know when and where you're going to reopen, you want all the analytical models, all the pieces of information all in one place. Palantir is really designed to thrive in a crisis.
But especially under the Trump administration, the company's work with ICE and police departments has raised considerable concern in the liberal-leaning Silicon Valley, leading Palantir to double down on its commitment to law enforcement and national defense.
So I do think this idea of nationalism and libertarianism is kind of intersecting in a very interesting way, and Palantir seems to represent all of that.
Protests against Palantir first gained traction in 2018, primarily in response to the company's contracts with Immigration and Customs Enforcement, which are worth up to $92 million. The agency has cracked down on illegal immigration through workplace raids and separating families at the border.
My house has been protested for many months, almost every day. Our office has been protested. Many Palantirians protested against it internally. Some people were so upset by it that they left. These are very hard decisions.
Co-founder and board member Peter Thiel is probably President Trump's most famous Silicon Valley backer, donating $1.25 million to his 2016 campaign. Karp's politics differ, but he says that Palantir remains fully committed to aiding the U.S. government.
I've never stopped being critical of this administration. I'm not planning to vote for this administration. So there are things I do differently. The core issue, though, is who decides. The small island in Silicon Valley that would love to decide what you eat, how you eat, and monetize all your data should not decide who lives in your country and on what your conditions. There are elections, there are rules, they should be enforced.
Karp's ethos also holds true for Palantir's work with police departments from New York City to Los Angeles, New Orleans, and Chicago, who have used the tech for surveillance of criminal suspects and predictive policing, a tactic that civil liberties groups say leads to over-policing of minority neighborhoods. But can Palantir really claim to be above the political fray?
I understand the desire to be neutral and to kind of say, hey, we're going to play by the rules. That is a logically coherent stance if companies are also neutral with regard to who makes the laws. But hold on, if you're willing to back political factions with your own money, you can't say, well, in this aspect of our business, we do influence policy and politics, but over here, we are politically neutral. It doesn't work that way.
Other tech companies, like Google, have backed out of controversial contracts with the Defense Department. But Palantir sees that as an abdication of responsibility.
Peter and I built a very patriotic company. Google's clearly not a patriotic company.
Karp also hit back against the culture of the Valley in the company's S-1 filing to go public.
Here's what he had to say. The engineering elite of Silicon Valley may know more than most about building software, but they do not know more about how society should be organized or what justice requires. Our company was founded in Silicon Valley, but we seem to share fewer and fewer of the technology sector's values and commitments.
In August, the company announced it will move its headquarters to Denver, Colorado, likely both a financially and morally motivated decision.
The Valley is basically sold its soul to an advertising model where it's okay to sell your data, but it's not okay to support the country. And they didn't want to be part of that ecosystem and didn't feel that that ecosystem was aligned with their values.
So what does all this controversy mean for investors? For those who believe in Palantir's mission, it could be an asset. And for those with qualms, well, it ultimately may not mean much.
The general belief around the Valley is that public market investors in particular talk a big game about governance and about things that they view as acceptable and unacceptable, and then they buy the stock anyway.
Though Palantir is yet to turn a profit, this isn't of considerable concern to investors, who are used to betting big on tech companies operating at a loss. What will affect the company's value is whether investors view it more as a high-growth tech company or a lower-margin consulting firm.
That combination makes this a bit of a Rubik's Cube for investors because it's not a pure-play software model.
For most of its history, Palantir has spent heavily on software customization services for both government agencies and large corporations.
It is a very costly business to run, but if they can automate their own processes and have a more efficient sales process and get the biggest customers to continue to buy more, then their operating metrics do improve over time.
As of late, that's what Palantir has been trying to do. And now it offers two fixed-fee platforms, Gotham for government clients and Foundry for the private sector. The company's target market is said to be the 6,000 companies that make $500 million or more in revenue.
The average customer spends over $5 million a year on Palantir's product. The top 20 customers account for roughly 2/3 of their revenue. They say they only have about 125 customers. So this is fundamentally different than your Zoom and your Slack. It is not for everyone.
In 2015, when Palantir raised its last funding round, the company's valuation was upwards of $20 billion. But lately, share prices have been all over the map, indicating a valuation range of anywhere from less than $10 billion to over $20 billion.
They're trying to show investors that they do have this really big market opportunity, that they have a bunch of potential customers out there, and that's where the skepticism is.
The true value will be clarified at the end of September when Palantir completes its direct listing, a process that is similar to an IPO, except that the company won't sell any new shares. It will just unleash those held by existing investors. Thus, the shares will be priced based on investor demand, and if the stock trades higher than expected, that value won't be handed to brand new shareholders.
I think the Palantir IPO is going to signal to venture investors and others that serving the Department of Defense and military business is going to be worthwhile.
Karp certainly hopes so, saying that the future of our nation depends on it.
The country with the most important AI, most powerful AI, will determine the rules. That country should be either us or a Western country.
Palantir doesn't do business with China, the U.S.'s main competitor when it comes to AI.
So if we bring our A game, we will win. If we bring our D+ game, because most people in the Valley live on an island where this seems like a questionable project, they will win.
최근 장안에 화제가 되고 있는 팔랜티어에 관한 짧은 영상 재미있게 보셨는지 모르겠습니다. 오늘 캐치 미 이프 유 원트는요, 제가 나름대로 만들어 본 서머리 내용을 공유해 볼까 합니다. 첫 번째 메시지는요, 대용량의 데이터를 통합하고 분석해서 고객사가 원하는 활용 가능한 정보로 변환시켜주는 것이 팔랜티어의 비즈니스 모델이다 라고 이해를 하시면 될 것 같고요. 두 번째로 대기업 고객사의 매출이 드디어 50% 가까이 육박하는 모습을 보였습니다. 따라서 정부기관에 대한 의존도가 너무 높다는 저의 우려가 있었는데요. 그 우려는 어느 정도 이제 불식이 되기 시작했다라고 생각을 해도 될 것 같고요. 즉 시장이 조금 더 넓어지고 있다라고 우리가 해석을 할 수 있겠죠. 세 번째는요, 팔랜티어가 만약에 수익을 낼 수 있다면 지금 현재 팔랜티어의 약점으로 하나 지적되는 것이 너무나 많은 비용이 들어가는 비즈니스 모델을 갖고 있다. 왜냐하면 기존에 갖고 있는 기성 제품을 판매하는 것이 아니고요. 소프트웨어를 고객이 원하는 대로 계속 커스터마이즈해서 판매하는 그런 비즈니스 모델을 가지고 있거든요. 따라서 굉장히 비용이 높은 비즈니스 모델을 가지고 있다. 그 점이 지금 팔랜티어의 투자자에게는 한 가지 컨선이 될 수 있거든요. 수익을 내기가 굉장히 어려운 그런 구조를 가지고 있다. 그런데 만약에 팔렌티어가 이러한 약점을 극복하고 수익을 만들어내는 모습을 보인다면 그 투자 가치는 굉장히 커질 수가 있는 거죠. 마지막으로 록업 해제에 대해서 우리가 생각을 해봐야 되는데요. 2020년 실적 보고가 있는 날로부터 3일 후부터 록업이 해제된다고 합니다. 만약에 팔렌티어에 이미 투자를 하고 계신 분들은 이 날을 기억하셨다가 마음의 준비를 단단히 하셔야 될 것 같고요. 만약에 아직까지 팔렌티어의 매수 기회를 잡지 못하고 계시는 분들은요. 과연 이번에 록업 해제가 될 때 어느 정도 주가가 떨어져 줄지 굉장히 좋은 매수 기회가 될 수 있으니까요. 팔렌티어에 관심이 있으신 분들은 이 록업 해제를 기다리면서 모니터링을 해야 될 것 같습니다. 제가 오늘 준비한 내용은 여기까지입니다. 최근에 제가 4차 산업혁명의 수혜주들을 열심히 찾아보고 있는데요. 많은 기업들에 대한 데이터와 자료들을 공부하면서 느낀 점은요. 세상에는 참 좋은 기업, 투자할 만한 기업이 넘쳐난다는 점입니다. 그래서 곧 시작하게 될 4차 산업혁명 수혜주 탑30 시리즈에 제가 여러분들께 소개해드릴 기업을 30개로 추려내는 과정이요. 생각보다 쉽지가 않습니다. 그만큼 이 4차 산업혁명이라는 시대적 상황이 너무나 많은 기업들에게 성장의 기회를 제공해 주는 것 같기도 하고요. 그래서 하는 수 없이 아무리 성장성이 좋아도 투자 위험성이 높은 종목들을 하나씩 제외해 나가고 있는데요. 그런 의미에서 팔란티어는 참 애매합니다. 아무나 할 수 있는 비즈니스가 아니기 때문에 경제적 해자는 굉장히 탄탄한 기업인데요. PS 레이시오가 현재 47이 넘어가는 너무나 높은 프리미엄 멀티플을 보여주고 있어서 솔직히 소중한 우리의 자금을 선뜻 투자하기에는 어려운 부분이 있긴 합니다. 따라서 안전한 투자를 하기 위해서는 내년 초에 록업 해제일까지 한 걸음 떨어져서 기다리는 것도 하나의 방법이 될 것 같습니다. 우리 모두가 미국 주식 투자로 은퇴하는 그날까지 다 함께 화이팅입니다. 행복한 하루 되세요. 감사합니다.